Billy. I run Open Books, a poem emporium, and we are absolutely delighted to be partnering with Amber to celebrate their incredible new collection and all of the amazing artists that they're having on this tour, virtual tour that they're offering in anticipation of what we're excited about for their in-person event here at the store sometime in the fall. A little background on Open Books. We've been in business for more than 30 years and recently moved to Pioneer Square from our first home in Wallingford. We love in-store visits, we love online customers, and we're happy to see you whenever you come. You can find us online at openpoetrybooks.com or come say hi.
Welcome to this virtual series to celebrate my bestie, Amber Flame, and her new book, Apocrypha. Apocrypha is a love story to conjure up queer, non-gendered joy of biblical proportions with a lot of research and acrobatic wordplay. Today, Flame is joined by Michael M.J. Jones, a writer, poet, musician, parent, and earth visitor. MJ is the author of Hood Vacations from Black Lawrence Press and also serves as the managing poetry editor of Foglifter, an award-winning literary home for queer and trans writers.
Thank you, Roma, and thank you, MJ, for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Amber. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I forget that you're a musician. Tell me about your music.
Oh, yes. I have just gotten back in touch with my music. It's interesting. I sort of usually am in a steady writing and poetry place or a place with music and don't often have the two converse, which I should. But yeah, I've been singer, songwriter. I play guitar mostly, some cello, some drums, and random things. So yeah, I have
That's awesome.
a musical side to me. Yes.
So you write your own songs and sort of like one person band the thing?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Can we hear any of your music anywhere? I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, I'll dig some up and send them to you. They are very old recordings. So I've had some vocal puberty since then. But yeah, I think they're on Bandcamp, maybe some recordings of mine. Yeah.
Awesome. I don't know if you know this. I'm a blues singer, and actually Roma is in my band, Last of the Red Hot Mamas.
Okay, so we'll see some music when you come through the Bay.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, so can we jam, especially cello? Come on now. So when we start touring, because we just finished recording an album and called Magic Black Woman. And when we start, if we come down to California, be prepared for an invite to come and play some of your songs, because I would love that.
All right, I'm down.
Awesome. That makes so much sense though, because what I catch from there's something that I'm proud to be accessible as a poet. Like I want the person reading my poem to understand it, and to not have to work too hard to do so. Mainly because I'm self-taught, and community taught really. And if somebody didn't show me the way through some poems, then I wouldn't know either. I wouldn't understand or feel the draw. But I find that people, it never surprises me when people whose way of writing poetry really sings to me, for lack of, carry the metaphor, that they end up doing music, some kind of music. And I can think of a few poets where I'm like, of course you're a musician. So that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I would say the music came first. So I sort of taught myself guitar when I was maybe 12 or 13 and have just been playing since.
Word. Yes, I love that. Okay. So do you consider performing then as one of your art forms as well? Is that an identity for you?
Question. I'm not a huge music performer. So I mean, I'm happy to tap into that in this adventure called life. Yeah, I think I have before done some performances with music. This was probably back when I was in college. So I'm out of touch with that, but I would be happy to dive back in.
Do you find that it's easier to perform your poetry
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like slam poets, right? They're just better performers.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's one thing I'm like looking to grow in is just like I feel like I can be a little bit more mellow of a person or have like a mellow energy. So tapping into that, I think it is a separate space and a separate form of art in itself. So I'm interested in that too, learning how to occupy a different type of space in myself.
I think of it. I was talking to my band about this. Like I'm tapping into a persona, one of my
Mm-hmm.
personas, and
Mm-hmm.
that is, the blues singer persona. I'm like crafting it as an intentional, you know, skin costume to inhabit, which is also protective, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sort of keeps it from being too vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard out there, going out there, bare skin in this
Yeah.
world, as we were
I
just
mean,
discussing.
your performances are bar none, my friend. I remember your performance in Seattle during AWP was you had the whole room in a spell. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll take that. I do think of it as, I think I was a performer maybe first. I also started with music first, and,
mhm,
was a choir nerd all through school and sang in the church, and I actually ended up in Seattle to study music. And so that's what
mhm,
my training was, as the jazz singer.
uh,
And when I started writing poetry as I was finishing up college, and
mhm,
like really went into like community poetry, slam poetry scene shortly after. And it was coming back to music. I realized that what I was really doing was centering like performance as the main
mhm,
art
mhm,
form. And so everything is like, that's the centrifugal force. It's like what spins out might be a song or might be a poem or might be an essay,
yeah,
but there's a performance
mhm,
rooted at it.
mhm,
Um, and that's what gives me joy. That's the part that like I get the buzz from. That energy back and
mhm,
forth with the audience is unbeatable to me. And you might
yeah,
not get that with a poem on the page.
yes, very true. Yeah, I mean, you give us all joy also. So I'll just say
Oh,
that.
good. Thank you.
Sexy poems, we need them.
I mean, if you go and do it right. Speaking of sexy poems, so these conversations have been like thought about who are the great minds who are writing along themes. And what I really love, okay, so what I try to do with Apocrypha, with this book, is it's a fictional story. It's a fictional love story. I wrote it during a residency when I was really, really deep in grieving from losing my mom and then
Mm,
losing my guru. And then Prince was actually the third death that really affected me.
mm,
And that was all within basically a year.
mhm,
And during that time, a relationship, just friends, went into a just friends space, as queer
mhm,
relationships do. And that really was like the straw, it felt like. And
yeah.
I was so heartbroken and so vulnerable. And I was like, okay, I'm going to dream up a story of a
Mm,
lover and their beloved that is a fictional love story that ends happily, that I can believe in. Um, it's not perfect. It's not, they have a whole conflict. There's a whole, story
yeah,
arc,
the
but
arc, yeah.
this is a fictional love story because I wanted to believe. And when I was putting together this virtual tour, I can remember it was you and your partner and your child on a beach. And
Mm,
it was shortly after, I can't remember why I started following you, but your child was a baby, was like young. I know your baby is still very much a baby going into
yes, yes.
kindergarten. Love it. But I remember the way that they were both looking back at you in the picture. Their smiles were like so for you, if that makes sense. And I was
Yeah.
like, that kind of love, that kind of family.
Mm,
You built something. I'm getting teary. Apparently, I'm like, the emotions are really close to the surface today. Um, you built something and are holding on to something that I can believe in. And that's really like, I'm not seeing that a lot. So it was like, it's not just fictional anymore. I'm now noticing those sparkles of connection. And I'm studying it, like I'm curious about it. And so I want to know, like, how did you grow? how did you intentionally move into this space so that you could be the partner that you are, the parent that you are, and create this like this joy bubble that you can carry with you through some shit that's going on right now?
Yeah. Oh, that like really touched me first. Thank you so much for
Thank
saying
you.
that.
Thank you for sharing it. I really deeply mean it. Like I will go to your page just to be like, I'm sad today. And like it will, your kid splashing in the water. Like my kid is going into high school and I miss him. And so like sometimes I just will call my kid after going to your page. Okay, I'll stop waxing. Go ahead.
You're so sweet. What a question. Yeah. I mean, I was listening as you said, like one of the catalysts for writing this book and dreaming up this romance, this love that you could believe in was on the tails of or during processing immense grief. And that's much how my love story with my partner began. I am a non-biological adoptive queer parent, and my ex at one point took our child away from me. And I needed to go through court to win my rights back as a parent. And she sort of did that right after I met my current partner. And so I think that, and we can't even begin to speak of the atrocities that are happening against Black queer folks, against trans communities right now. I think that so much of our joy is like, um, is rooted in a place of pain, right? And so it makes it that more radiant when you know that you can lose something. Um, and so I just it really meeting Chantel, my partner, it really was sort of it felt like it was fictional. I sort of still am like there has to be a catch, right? She is um she's heaven sent. She's a being unlike anything I've encountered. Just has a grounded sense of presence that I really needed. I'm like very much in my head all the time or thinking, and she is, she's just an essence of being present, being present in my body. She loves me without condition, without question. And it's not to say things are all perfect because perfection doesn't exist, but and I think a lot of our love story has had the backstory of me like fighting my ass off for my kid. And you said something about like creating that type of love. I think mine is an unwavering one, and it is a warrior's love. Ain't nobody coming in my house. Nobody coming in my house for mine. What is mine? My family. And that's been like the theme for the past several years is I'm going to fight for my kid. I'm going to lovingly do so until I don't have love back at me, and then we're gonna get vicious. So you
Yeah.
really like, you got to protect your joy and protect your family and protect your love. I think one, because to me that's like my role and who I am is to provide, protect, cover, love, nourish, because that's so much of like what has been poured into me. And we just I'm the luckiest. We've had some like really really hard times lately, but at the end of the day I'm immensely blessed. My son is just like, I swear, probably just the easiest kid. I mean, he's sweet. All he really wants to do is be cuddled and like uses he and they, so I'll alternate. Um, they just want to be cuddled and like That's it. They want to be
Yeah.
cuddled and want to watch a little too much TV. And I'm like, well, you can say goodbye to this because you're going into kindergarten. So you ain't watching no TV except for on the weekends. 'Cause that's how I was raised, you know? But yeah, joy isn't that everything and the surrounding circumstances of your life are perfect. It's like
Mhm.
I got this, and once it's there, like you can't take it from me, and you will not. You will not.
Yeah.
You know, hate is easy. What they're throwing at us right now, that's easy. That's a
Mhm.
weakness. But to stay grounded and like I got immense love for my community, I have immense love for my family, and that's unmovable. That takes something. That's grit.
Ooh, that's real. I was thinking about what you were saying too. Like they don't exist separately. They
Mhm,
exist because it is like, um, I think it's why Black people are often the most joyous people you can ever find,
yeah.
because they it doesn't. I feel like I want to escape sometimes. Like I'm super fascinated,
Mhm,
asking Black writers especially, like, what would you be writing if you didn't have to write about what was happening to us,
mhm,
or what we were given to bear, as like,
mhm,
like if you were not called by history by the ancestors or by the
mhm,
present to
mhm,
write about the pain and the trauma, like what would you be imagining into?
mhm. Yeah, I think like so many of those poems can be found in my chapbook, Soft Armor, which is like primarily love, romance, sex, nature, and really like these snapshots that are just like an incredible presence and light.
Mm.
And those are real things and real moments. So yeah, I need it. Luckily, I don't need to imagine a whole lot to just get to like this is what I want to say. And I think like the urgency of writing politically is real, and I think that's usually my modus operandi. And there's just something too like I'm gonna encounter and inhabit my body in a way that other people can read it, and just like it's like when a breeze comes over you on a hot day. That's like what I want to be to people also, which is also
Mm.
political, which is also healing. So I think I would, you know right now I'm dreaming up this like so fun fact, when I was 12, 13, I wrote all of these dragon books. Yeah, I was
You
like
wrote?
yeah, I was like a novelist. Um,
Wow.
and I was like, I'm not going to school because I need to like write these dragon books. So I would be like in Spanish class just writing these dragon books, and they were pretty good. I'm probably gonna self-publish them under a pen name. Um, But that's the type of shit that I be on when I'm not like, oh, like this, white supremacist, heterosexist, transphobic, you supremacist state, blah blah blah. I just be like, I'm writing about some dragons, you
That's
know.
amazing.
Niggas is riding dragons, and like, um, they got sucked up into the street lamp, and because they was out past when the street lights were on, and they got sucked up into the street lamp, and now they're in this like black cowboy western where people are riding dragons. Like,
Amazing. Oh my god. That's actually a great premise.
so that's like and it's not like I didn't know what racism was when I was a kid, but I mean, there was no sense of responsibility. I was like, I don't really
Mm.
care about school. So I'm just gonna write these dragon books and be a weird loner. So
That's
that was
amazing.
me, and it was like I have this image that I share whenever I get the chance to talk about it. I was like 12, 13. I would at like 8 o'clock at night brew a pot of coffee. I just started drinking coffee when I was like 8. Uh, because I was writing since I could ever
Mhm.
read, basically, and just like drinking a pot of coffee into the night, like 2, 3 in the morning, typing about these dragons. And I was very serious about it. And that's like the image when I'm feeling like burdened. That's what I go back to is like this kid who at that point very clearly was trans and was othered and was bullied and was outcast, being like, okay, I'm gonna be like in my dragon cave. I really don't give a fuck
I don't need you.
about what you have to say. Like when I'm
Yeah.
feeling burdened, I like access that person.
That's amazing. I think there's also like there was something about fantasy, 10, 15, 20 years ago that in some ways felt more like you're supposed to see yourself here in it. Yeah, I think of like there's a whole series which I can't even imagine being able to read now. I want to say her name's Madeline, but she's like famous. She has like lots and lots of books, fantasy books, and they were like different creature, like different beings. Like there were, I don't know if there were centaurs exactly or angel, or I can't remember, but I remember very clearly thinking that this could be my world. Like I'm allowed access to this world. It didn't feel like I was being an observer to somebody else's world, and so. Yeah, it was like space was accessible, fairies and elves and, all the magic beings, like no mythology that I encountered felt like I couldn't insert myself into the story. And it's only through like continued like critical examination of how we're taught and what we're taught and whose myths were taught and why, that it was like I had to learn that they didn't want me inserting myself in the story because I was already in it. Like I was like, this is mine and this is mine and this is mine. We didn't have a TV growing up, so we read a lot. And like I have my old tales from Shakespeare, like the abridged version of Shakespeare. I didn't think Shakespeare wasn't a story for me. Wasn't
Me
a story
neither.
that it was my shit.
I rocked with Billy, man. Me and Billy had some late nights.
Right. I was like, this is a great, and I felt the same way about the Bible too. Like at a certain point, the Bible was this collection of stories more than anything else for me. And, I say that this book is inspired by Song of Solomon because that was my first erotica. That was my first access point to like how you were able to love somebody else's body. And I really, I think that it's interesting now because I have a harder time. Like right now I'm doing the Sealy challenge for the first time. I don't know why I thought this
God
August would be a good.
Child.
Listen, I'm only one book behind. It's day 6 and I'm only one book behind. I finished book 5 today. Yeah, but I'm like, I don't know why I thought. I'm looking at this stack of books that's lining my dining table next to because I literally pulled books off of my shelf that I had bought and never read. I'm like, man, half of these shits assigned to me directly and I never read it. So I'm doing what I hope other people want to do with my work, and actually read the book. But reading it, I'm like, I find that it's really hard for me to read poems, even not just story. Like I was going to say stories, especially fantasy, sci-fi, anything like that, that's not written by Black people, because I'm so aware of our like absence in their setting in a way that I wasn't back in the day. Right. We were nowhere, so we could be anywhere, but even with poems, I'm like, there are certain ones where I'm just like I have Erica Jong in here and I'm like, I don't know if I can get to you, Erica. I think you might be on the chopping block. Ann Sexton, I might not get to you this time because there's certain like places where I'm like, I don't want to work this hard. Like a lot of the Southeast Asian writers, right? There's access points for me. That is like, I'm fascinated by parallels. I'm fascinated by immigration story. Like I'm fascinated by like the way I can see myself mirrored and not. And with the other ones, I'm like, why am I working so hard to try to like see myself in your poems or your story? The work is more apparent now than it ever has been before.
Yes. I hadn't thought about it that way until you put it that way. But when I was in my MFA at Mills, and I can't complain because it was a Black ass program. There were a lot of Black people there. All the whole poetry side was Black books. But we were reading, I'm not gonna name the title because I'm gonna be canceled on Twitter. But it was this certain white poet who was preoccupied with a certain color, and there were like these vignettes of color, and like
yeah.
I was like, some of the lyricism in here really slaps, but like it just seems like you're a sad white girl, and I like really couldn't like relate at all. So I think there's like things I have taken from those poets on a craft level that I then steal to write, you know, some black ass poem. But can I enter the experience?
No. It's like you can be clear, like, oh, that was clever. Cleverness is like, I can see that, but I'm not swayed.
Yeah.
You know, like I remain unswayed by this poem, even though I see your craft.
Yes. Yeah. It's that. Yeah. It's not like, I mean, I feel like that's one of the differences though, and like, not that like all black poets write this way. I can't like typecast everybody, but like, you know, there's a spirit or an essence that I feel like is not always present elsewhere. And you get too heady up here, and you know, it just loses the resounding effect that poems can have for me, which is like I want to be knocked out, you know, either in like awe of joy. Ross Gay does that a lot.
Oh my God.
Very beautifully.
Yeah.
But I want to be knocked out. Darius Simpson. You know what I'm saying?
The
Like,
Oakland or California poet. I don't know if
yes.
he's still in Oakland.
Yes.
Yeah, he just put out a book not too long ago. How is
Mhm.
it? I've only read the stuff he's posted online
I
so
mean,
far.
he's
Doing something.
so when you talk about performance, he's one to watch.
Oh yes.
So I want to be like that's what I'm looking for. And like sometimes that can only be captured actually in writing in like a spirited moment, or like I'm not overthinking it. I'm actually listening to whatever voice of spirit is there. And then what comes in the revision is maybe I'll think about some craft tools. But if I'm sitting there starting off thinking about it too much, the spirit ain't gonna move me the same as if I'm just like I'm going through this gut wrenching thing and putting it on the paper.
Yeah. That made me think about like, I know you're an editor, and it's saying my internet is slow, so let me know if I drop out and you can't hear me for some reason. I know you're an editor and you have this book, and the book was published through Nomadic Press, right?
Yes.
And then was picked up by Black Lawrence when Nomadic
Correct.
Press closed. And I remember when J.K. Fowler started Nomadic Press, like was doing readings as like Nomadic. And it's been such an interesting journey putting out. This is my second book, but the first book I was grieving and I had a very young child and I was a single parent. So I didn't tour per se. Like there was I perform a lot, as my friend reminds me. She's like, you're kind of constantly on tour because you're always performing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not the same. So I was really determined with this book before it came out that I was going to do the things. I was going to, you know, line up the readings and do the things. And then I started doing it, and oh my God, like the soul draining reality of, especially like, you know, here I am sitting in a pile of poetry books, and just this sort of like, is there a reason for me to be putting more words out into the world? Does it matter? Does anybody care? Is anybody listening? You know, like that. So I know that like you have this editor's eye too. You have to like think about that with Foglifter, and like, why are we putting this out? Like, what is the intention and energy? How has it been for you with both your own work and other people saying like what is your statement of purpose in this that keeps you going?
I was like, I do have one. I can read, but I don't, I don't want to pull it up. I was the managing poetry editor at Foglifter. I'm now the editor in chief. But I remember when I was managing the poetry team, like, who are just fantastic, beautiful people. You know, one of the thoughts is like everybody has a different editorial eye. So, like, what is it that this unique editor is bringing in? What are the biases we have when we're looking at a poem? Like, one of my, maybe it's not a bias, but it's just like I don't like poems that are. We talked about this. I don't like poems that are like difficult for the sake of being difficult, or use a metaphor in a way that doesn't like transform a thought, or there's not some action that comes out of the poem, or I'm not like reflecting on myself at all. I don't like useless image or useless metaphor. So I remember one of the editorial meetings that my team was like really rallying for this like whale poem, and I didn't understand like what the use of the whale was. I was like, why is there a whale? I don't get it. But like seeing it explained through their eyes and like what they thought the whale represented, and so I think when we have multiple people on a team, it's useful to have like different perspectives, because my perspective is like, your poem better say something. There better be like a revolutionary act, or there better be like an intense aliveness to it. In a moment I can see myself there. It better do something. It better enact something. Say something. Say something. Say something.
Say
That's
something.
that's my editorial, but say something. I don't want to, there's a place for this type of poetry, but I don't really always want to walk through a field of marigolds, unless the marigolds are about your grandmother that passed away after surviving segregation in Jim Crow South. There's like through lines
Not
that
just for the marigolds.
I don't just want to be in some marigolds with the deer hopping along, because that's not the life that I live. If I'm in nature, I'm my black ass in nature. So our experiences, I just want you to do something. That's like, I don't want to just sit here for the sake of sitting here. That's one of the reasons I love Darius. Again, he like enacts revolution. Tongo Eisen Martin enacts revolution. Mimi Tempest, like all these wonderful Black poets. I could, Ayodele Nzinga, the poet laureate of Oakland, are all like, they're enacting something. Give me a gospel, or a monument to your lover's body. Like I just want to like enter your perspective and be changed. I want to be changed by what you can show me with your voice. And I think among contemporary poets, there can be a cadence that like people are trying to write into. You got the image and you got the metaphor, then you weave this line and it appears later, like kind of just like, that's all fine and well. But like, if I'm not changed, I don't want it. Change me, make me alive, convince me of something I didn't think was true before, shock me. One of my favorite poets of all time is who was a very skilled persona, dramatic dial. I mean, she was a queen of shocking.
Yeah, would suddenly drop a line where you're like, what?
She's just like, I have killed my goat. Like, what? You did what?
Back up.
Killed the goat? What? So like I that's what I want. And I mean, maybe that's like applies to more genres than just poetry, but you frequently with poetry have such little space to witness something, and I just want to be changed by it.
So how do you come to your writing for yourself do you come like ready to craft a larger, do you come at it poem at a time? Do you come at it collection or like theme? And do you come at it with that like something happened and you saw and it surprised you or shocked you and you brought that to the work, or you let the work like does it surprise and shock you as you're writing?
Very much both.
Yeah.
So Soft Armor, for instance, like I did not plan to write that. These were these little vignettes of life, of really like moments of beauty here and there.
Mhm.
Um, there's a the opening poem is called Mantra Against Gaslighting. And it's just like what was the line? I insist upon myself. It's very declarative and present. But it was also like one of the spirit moves me things. Like I am in nature in the middle of Sedona, feeling the vortex energy there in Sedona and writing. So that was a more of a like I have no plan here. I'm just writing, and then the poems happened to I saw the themes of love and connection. There is one project I'm working on now, and hopefully almost finished with, that is about the Hart family and the 6 Black children that were killed by Jennifer and Sarah Hart.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is a very intentional collection.
Right.
It has taken me some time to finish, and that is like I am coming with a lens, I'm coming with a goal, I'm using persona in that story's retelling. Um, and it's a very like documentary poetics type of approach. And so that one is I'm coming at it and I have to be careful and I think about it. But ooh, there's still some element of surprise to it because this isn't my shadow self, the darker side of my writing. I have in those poems I entered the personas of Jen and Sarah Hart. I wrote in their persona. And
Oof.
so I mean,
You had to understand it. You had to understand the side of you that could understand what they did and how they did it
mhm,
and why.
yeah. And when I
Yeah.
tell you that I have some like not medium tendencies, but I have been visited by beings that are from the beyond in the
Mm.
past, so I have to have like some boundaries around how I write that. But there was one poem I was writing, and I remember because I think my partner was home. Where it was like it wasn't like a possession, but
But kind of.
low key a possession.
Yeah.
Uh, so because I could hear so clearly like
Yeah.
these people's thoughts. So some boundaries have had to be drawn in writing this
Mhm.
project, but that's a very one that I'm like, I know what I think. Here's like the ways that I'm crafting the whole collection. It's gonna be told from in reverse order,
Mm.
beginning with the crash and beginning with like this terrible act and move through. So I really I think that it's just my best, man. It's just my best writing and like
Mm.
because I'm pulling everything I'm good at. I'm pulling the character voice, I'm pulling music, I'm pulling um elegy and ode and mourning and uh documentary and different things into one collection. So I'm excited to I mean it sounds weird to be excited about because it was a terrible event. But I'm excited about it because it's thus far I think the best thing I've written.
Mm. That's amazing. That's it does not surprise me. I don't know you super well yet, but it does not surprise me that you were susceptible to hauntings. The collection that I just finished writing and
Mhm.
I'm trying to put out in the world is called The Ghost Formerly Known as Prince and Other
Mm,
Hauntings. And I've I had one person who was like, "You mean you said that?" And I was like, "I mean, did I?" Because like so my celebrity ghosts are Whitney, Prince, and Aretha.
mm,
And I didn't ask for the haunting,
mhm,
like that's what came upon me. And my mother is obviously one of my ghosts as well. And so this
mhm,
book,
mm,
even when I think back over the time when the poems were being generated in me, it feels like that. It feels like a taking over. And I can see poems where I'm like, that's where I came back with craft and did things.
Yeah.
But the original thing that came out was a haunting and boundaries. That was the thing I learned over COVID pandemic was like, oh, when you open the door, like I have a poem that says, okay, ghost, come sit. Like, I'm making this space. And I will listen. And then we're going to have to close that door again. And I need to remember how to close the door because it would be like, it would be like suddenly like the murmuration of all these voices and you're just like, oh, I'm too close to the veil. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of hunger and there was so much death. There was so much grief during those 2 years where we were losing a million people, you know, like it was like, I could feel the wailing of it, you know, and it's people who are susceptible to those, like I can see why you'd be excited because it would take those skills and tools to tether yourself to keep from being taken to, you know, from rising up too high. And it does not, that's amazing. I'm excited for the work of it too. And I love a poet's pride when they're like, I used all my skill to make this shit. Like that's what I say about my book. I'm like, I had to give myself my own MFA in poetry and form poetry to write this fucking book. And I'm going to say it every time because I had to work for a long years and years to learn how to write a sonnet. One good sonnet takes like several really shitty sonnets to write one good one. Yeah, like you get to one and then you're like, oh, okay, now I'm to write one good sestina. It takes a lot of shitty practice ones, you know? So just to get to the point where you truly understand how all the rules of the form and how malleable it can be. Like I didn't do the MFA, right? And it was like, so I'm very proud. Like, and I feel that excitement, that pride in your excitement too. Like it's just, and to do it for, this is gonna, like you said, the telling of it backwards, and it made me think of Kendrick Lamar, and just like these things that we plant, so that you like what happens when you do read it backwards, which is then forward. What happens, like you have to be thinking of the beginning to start at the end. And I mean, from Gabriel Garcia Marquez's Chronicle of a Death Foretold, I've been loving a backwards told story. I love that. It's a super tricky tool to use well, and that's exciting. Do you know when you're planning to release it?
Yeah, so I would say I probably have, I don't know, this is a type of thing that I could write into until it's like 200 pages. So, you know, I have like the samples of it out, and but I don't know. We'll see who picks it up. I think I'm gonna continue to write into it, especially come fall, which is ghost season. October, November, December is usually my like haunting period.
Huddle down and huddle down and consider.
Yes. But it reminds me of, you were talking about your celebrity hauntings. Just a quick tangent. We lost Toni Morrison. What is it? 5 years ago now? 4 or 5 years ago. In August, and at that time I was in DC at the Hurston Wright Black Writers Week, and you know, the evening before she passed, I had like, there was someone in the room with me, or there was like a presence that I could feel, that wasn't, it was a neutral presence, but I had the feeling like something, you know, monumental has happened, or there's like a essence here that is telling me something. And you know, the next day, and I was in workshop with Hanif Abdurraqib, who is of course like amazing, beautiful spirit, and you know, we like received the news, this room of Black poets, you know, at a Black writers retreat at Howard, got that news, and just like, you know, time stopped, and I remember like, you know, folks gasping, and like I really was just like on my knees, or like having the wind taken out of me, because you know, But what a blessing to be in that space, and be held by other Black writers in that way when, you know, so many of our literary mother, Toni Morrison, had passed away. So those hauntings or those presences, I think that I think many people have the potential to be in touch with them and are fearful. But they've always sort of hung low to the I'm like, I feel like here's the veil and I'm just like there.
Yeah, if I touch it, it's yeah. It's so interesting. I knew it was coming. I think that's the thing, is those three. I share a birthday with Aretha Franklin, and I've said that for a long time. And I was studying her, basically surviving everybody she's known and loved, and living past them and being afraid to fly. I was studying her because I've been studying her since I learned that I shared her birthday. My first year of music college, my sister got me an autobiography, and I'm sitting on the toilet Christmas Day reading a book. The first page is, I was born on March 25th. I was like, I can't read this birthday. It was a thing. But there was, with Prince, it was like, when my mom died, that's when I was gifted with this sight. And so I knew my guru was going to die. When I saw her, I was like, I need you to stay here. And she's like, I'm not done. And she was gone. I saw Prince in concert in March of 2016. And I texted a friend and said, I think Prince is sick. And then he was gone in April. And so that was the start of something where I had to accept that this was a gift, and like, and learn boundaries around it. But it's so interesting that you brought up Hanif, because the last question I wanted to ask you, we'll keep talking, and let's get together when I come out to the Bay and do our show.
Yes.
But also like get a drink and chill and food and everything like that, and make some music.
Yes. To the backyard, I'll do the barbecue. Yes.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, we got a plan. I will be there. Hanif posted this. A few people have posted some version of this recently. It's kind of been blowing up, but Hanif was one I saw on Instagram. And I think he posted something like, I've been going out for a run or something like that. And it turns out, fuck them, it made me feel better. And I was like, right, like that daily consistent effort to take care of your physical body can like drastically shift your mindset.
Yeah.
And ever since then, my horoscopes, like Channing Nicholas has been on my ass about it. Like, it's like, how do you incorporate these moments of delight and pleasure and joy into your like daily tasks, daily activities, daily life? So my last question that I would love for you to answer is, I'm just building like a compendium, for lack of a better word, of what people have shared with me of like, I do this for joy, or I do this to feed my joy. What do you do to feed your joy? What is a consistent thing you can come back to?
There are a lot of good ones. I have a lovely pit bull, and he is just very silly. So I like messing with him a little bit. I like do the nose bops. So I just play with
cracks
him.
you up.
It cracks me up. Oh my God, like hugs from my son. Watching my son learn how to swim. Exercise is really good for me. I love boxing.
Nice.
So in the way these people be out here for us, I'm gonna need to learn how to box. Okay.
Throw a punch. Throw hands first.
So boxing, being in my physical body, baths, good bath, acupuncture, writing, and really just like letting myself be silly. Like if Chantel were here, she would tell you I'm like one of the silliest people, just randomly like squawking and dancing, just right. Oh yeah, like I'm like already excited for Halloween, so I can dress up. Like never was a Halloween person until I had a small child. So I think just like allowing silliness also. I mean, I can't help be silly if I tried, but just like allowing it as people who like have so much to be serious about, laughing at nothing, just making terrible jokes and laughing at myself. I laugh at myself all the time. What else? People watching and coffee, like really good coffee, really good tea
Mhm.
is so good. I love to cook and create. I love to feed people. So when you're in the Bay, I would love
I will
to
let you feed me,
have,
please, and thank you.
yeah. So all of those things are good for the heart, going to art galleries, just taking everything in. And I'm just learning to, I don't know, I'm learning to be more present. The smell of lavender, just like they're little things, but they sort of stack up to be a monumental sense of joy and calm. And yeah, I think those are my joys. And then of course, like music, putting the record player on and listen to Aretha and Al
Mhm.
Green and cooking and Fela and all the like musical greats is just one of my greatest joys. It helped me write Hood Vacations. It's helping me write Bluff. Like all of the time, music is interwoven.
I love that. And
Mhm.
it's so to tie it back to what you started with, which is this person brings you so much like being in the present and gets you out of your mind.
Yes.
Almost everything you listed were things that you do and you have
Mhm.
to be present for. I love that.
Yes.
Okay, daily consistent care with the body and whatnot. It's great. It's gonna save us all. And then it's over for you hoes.
Unfortunately, I hate to report that it is in fact true that
Yeah, I know. I know. But also like that daily consistent care doesn't look like I have to do my workout and I have to drink my water. It can look like so many joyous things. Yeah.
Hiking, yep, outside in the sun
Mm.
before the sun kills us.
Before it's too hot to do that
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah. Michael, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for exploring this. I'm excited for your new work coming out. I'm excited to read with you in San Francisco in September. I'm going to
Yes.
bring Roma back to take us out. And then if you'll stay on for just a moment, I'd love to just chat for a second before we go.
Sounds good. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Roma. Take it away.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed witnessing the conversation between Flame and MJ. You can check us out online. We're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and we have one more session scheduled for the end of the month, so look for the announcement for that. Make safe choices and go get that joy. We'll see you next time.